Okay, welcome to the deep dive.
Hi there.
Today we're tackling a really difficult subject, a truly heartbreaking case out of Washington State involving the Decker sisters.
It is incredibly tough. We've been going through the source material you've provided, and it outlines just a devastating series of events.
Yeah.
Our goal here for this deep dive is really to unpack the details from those sources. We want to map out the timeline, understand who the key people were, and frankly, face the really difficult questions this whole situation brings up about, the systems meant to keep kids safe.
Exactly. The material really grounds us in late May 2025. It starts with something that sounds routine, almost mundane.
A court-approved visitation, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
The sources state that on May 25th, the three girls, Peyton, she was 9, Evelyn was 8, and little Olivia, just 5, they were picked up by their father, Travis Decker.
Just a standard weekend visit, supposedly?
That was the plan. But then, things went wrong. Very wrong.
Quickly, it seems, Sunday passed.
Right. No contact.
Then Monday, still nothing. Still nothing. And that's when their mom, understandably panicked, reported them missing. The situation escalated fast.
So by May 29th, it wasn't just a missing persons report anymore.
No. By the 29th, the sources say a full-scale search was launched. A major operation. It shows how seriously authorities were taking it, even early on.
And then, it's hard to even say it, just 4 days after that search began.
The worst possible news came. They found the bodies of all 3 girls.
Just devastating.
Yeah.
And this discovery, it brought the horror into sharp focus. Where did the sources say they were found?
They were located near a place called Rock Island Campground. It's in Chelan County.
Okay.
And what's particularly grim, reading the material, is the indication they might have been there for quite some time. Possibly since that very first night.
Is this a Saturday night?
Potentially, yes. That's what the early indications suggest.
And the initial reports on how they died?
The sources we reviewed point to strangulation as the preliminary cause of death. It's incredibly difficult information. Absolutely. Which inevitably brings us to the father, Travis Decker. What did the sources tell us about him?
Well, we learned he's 32 years old, an Army veteran.
Okay.
But the material also highlights a history, some interactions with authorities, mention of counseling. PTSD is specifically cited in the sources.
And this is where it gets even more complicated, right? The red flags mentioned in the material.
Exactly. It's noted that previous visits, court-allowed visits, had been supervised.
Right, I saw that.
But this one, the one where they went missing,
Yeah.
it wasn't supervised.
Why the change? That's the huge question hanging over this.
It is. The sources really seem to emphasize that shift. And then, after the girls were found, Travis Decker was gone, vanished.
Disappeared. But he left something behind.
Yes, his vehicle. The sources describe it being found deep in the forest, burned out.
Burned out. So it looked deliberate.
It looked like someone tried to destroy evidence. That's the description in the material.
But no sign of him.
Nobody was found, not in the vehicle, not nearby, no sign of him at all. And apparently no final note, nothing like that. Just the burned vehicle and him gone.
Which must have triggered an enormous response.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Sources detail a massive manhunt. We're talking the FBI, local police.
Wow.
Even veteran groups are mentioned as assisting in the search efforts. It's a huge operation to find him.
And he's an Army vet, you said, so potentially with survival training.
That's part of the speculation mentioned in the sources. The rumors are flying, naturally. Some think he could be hiding out in the wilderness, using that training.
Mm-hmm.
But the sources also mention conflicting ideas. Some people theorize maybe he's dead, maybe suicide after the horrific act.
Or worse.
Or, others fear he might be planning something else, something worse. It's all speculation at this point in the material.
But at the bottom line, based on the sources dated around late May, early June 2025, he's still missing, still at large.
Correct. Still at large.
Yeah.
And there's a significant reward. The sources mention $100,000 for information leading to his capture.
It's so easy to get caught up in the details of the crime and the manhunt, but the material rightly pauses, and we should too, to remember the girls themselves.
It's absolutely essential. Peyton, Evelyn, and Olivia. We need to remember who they were.
Yeah.
The sources give us these small, heartbreaking details. Peyton, the oldest, loved art. Evelyn, the middle child, she was apparently the loud one,
Yeah.
curious, always asking questions.
Like lots of 8-year-olds.
Exactly. And then Olivia, the baby, just 5. She loved to dance.
They weren't just names, they were real children. Living their lives.
Real kids, exactly. With personalities, things they loved, it makes the loss feel even more profound.
And that loss, that tragedy, it forces these incredibly hard questions. The sources don't shy away from them.
No, they don't. The biggest one, the one everyone asks according to the material, is just how? How could something like this happen?
Especially given what we now know or what the sources suggest. The red flags you mentioned.
Right. The mom reportedly having raised concerns before Travis Decker's history. It all leads to that critical point. Why was he allowed unsupervised access?
Could it have been stopped, prevented somehow?
That's the agonizing question. And the sources include this quote from the girl's mother. It's just gut-wrenching. She says, "They were my world. I trusted the system, and the system failed."
Oh, God.
It really hits hard. And the sources connect this specific tragedy to potentially larger issues.
Yeah.
It's framed not just as one man's horrific crime, but possibly as a reflection of, cracks in the custody system, maybe a mental health support access.
Failures on multiple levels.
And ultimately, the sources even use the term human failing, acknowledging the complex, tragic human element in all of this.
So, recapping this deep dive based on our sources, we've walked through that awful timeline from late May, the discovery near Rock Island campground.
We looked at the background provided on Travis Decker, the red flags, his disappearance, and the ongoing search.
Pause to remember Peyton, Evelyn, and Olivia.
And then confronted those really systemic, difficult questions about how this could happen and the heartbreaking idea of the system failing them.
It's a deeply disturbing case pulled directly from the material we had. It leaves you with so many unanswered questions.
It really does. This deep dive into the sources shows a sequence of events that's almost unbearable, and it forces us to think about warning signs, intervention, and where systems can break down.
So as we wrap up this look into the source material, here's something to leave you, the listener, with. A final thought stemming from everything we've discussed. Considering all these details from the sources, especially those conflicting rumors about Travis Decker, where he might be, what he might do, combined with the stark questions about why this wasn't prevented, what does this specific case make you consider about the immense complexities involved when the warning signs seem to be there, but the absolute worst still happens?